Thanks for joining us on What Matters This Week. I'm Lauren Maloney. We are joined this Sunday by Dr. Thomas Konda, author of the new book, Conspiracies of Conspiracies, How Delusions Have Overrun America. Sir,
Hello.
Appreciate you being with us.
My pleasure.
Former SUNY-Plattsburgh professor.
I am.
What made you write a book about conspiracy theories? Was it something you were always interested in?
It was, in a way. I've always been interested in why people believe the things they believe. And conspiracy theories are right up there as a good example of, at best, unusual things, in many cases, clearly delusional things that people do, nevertheless, believe. And the question of why is that, and for that matter, what are these conspiracy theories that they believe, has interested me for some time.
Now, you teach a course, Conspiracism in America. What's the interest like from the students when they tell you, oh, I had to take this course?
Well, they're knocking each other down to get into that course. It's a great course. Everybody loves it. I've taught it, I think, maybe only 3 times, once as a political science course and twice in the honors program. And the honors program really helped me because the students are from a variety of majors. There are nursing students, there are business students, there are humanities students in an honors program. Mm-hmm. And so that helped me broaden out my perspective to include such things as health conspiracies. Not just vaccines, like everybody knows about, but there are still people who have polio conspiracies, and there are a lot of AIDS conspiracists and so forth. So there, in the health area, there are business conspiracies, there are anti-government conspiracies, and of course there are lots of anti-Semitic conspiracies, and they cover things that are well outside the realm of everyday politics. And so teaching it in an honors helped a lot. The students like it. Mm-hmm. They enjoyed it quite a bit.
So you mentioned politics. Mm-hmm. Are the basis from some of the early, more well-known conspiracy theories, are those political? Was the basis political for some of the more popular conspiracy theories?
Yes. I'm sure that sociologists would say they're sociological, they're broader than mere politics, but yes. Because at one time, if you go back 250, 300 years, politics was essentially conspiracies. There was no democracy, there were kings, there were courts, and there were all those plots going on all the time. Everybody took that for granted. There were no conspiracy theories because that's just what there was. It was only with the emergence of democratic politics in the wake of the French Revolution that the idea of a conspiracy behind the scenes, where we have apparently a nice democratic government responsive to the people, but somehow behind the scenes there are conspirators manipulating everything, that only really goes back to around the French Revolution. And all of the early events, certainly in the United States, were political. The anti-Masons and the anti-Catholics before the Civil War. The populists had a lot of conspiracy theories. Now those are economic, but they're also political.
Do we know the origin of conspiracy theories? That's probably something that's more difficult to answer. How did they start?
They started with the French Revolution, it's perfectly clear. The first conspiracy theorists are John Robison and the Abbé Beruel, and a French expatriate, who wrote conspiratorial views of the French Revolution. There were other people who opposed the French Revolution, but they didn't write about it as a conspiracy. These are the people who brought the Illuminati into the picture. The Illuminati subverting Freemasonry and somehow bringing about a revolution that nobody wanted. So that's That's really where it comes from. Since then, its career has been up and down until maybe the last 50, 60 years, but since then, it's been a pretty solid part of our political environment.
So they're not unique to America.
America seems to be more conspiratorially minded than most places.
Do we know why?
I don't know why. People have speculated why. And the speculations vary. It seems to go along with the fact that we were early on saw ourselves, Americans saw themselves as an idealistic society, the world's only republic in a Europe filled with monarchies. They saw the United States as a beacon of liberty and progress for the world, and then they also saw it as constantly under attack by forces who were opposed to that beacon, reactionaries, kings and popes and whatnot in Europe. Whether or not that's all true, I don't know. It's not unique. There were a lot of British conspiracists in the early 20th century. There have been some Canadian ones. And there is a great deal of conspiracism in the Middle East as well, mostly having to do with Israel. I don't deal with it much because I don't know a great deal about it, and it's also fairly predictable. It goes exactly where you would think it would go. But because of the nature of our religious beliefs, because we're a relatively new country, people have speculated, just because of accidents of our history, because of slavery, because of westward expansion and east versus west. People have thrown out a lot of things, largely because nothing jumps out as the single thing that makes America conspiracist. But it does seem to be more conspiracist than other countries.
What surprised you in the research and in writing this book?
The thing that surprised me the most, and I thought I was prepared for it, was the degree to which contemporary conspiracism in the United States today and over the last few decades is really steeped in anti-Semitism. There has been a lot of effort to sanitize the anti-Semitism out of it, but it's still there. And I knew that was the case because if you look at the sources of the conspiracies that people imagine, you will have the Illuminati, by which people usually don't mean anything in particular because they don't know what it is. Sometimes Freemasons, sometimes the Catholics, sometimes Satan. Satan is still very popular, and the Jews. And so I knew that that was there, but the intensity of the anti-Semitism underlying so much conspiracism and how widespread it is really did surprise me. And that goes hand in hand with realizing how intensely right-wing it is. Not conservative. Conservatives are not particularly conspiratorial. Liberals are not particularly conspiratorial. Moderates, anybody can become a conspiracist. Anybody might fall into that pattern of thinking. But it really kicks in once you get past conservatism and out into the real right wing. That's where it tends to take place. Not exclusively, but that's where it tends to take place more than any other place in the political spectrum. And that surprised me as well. I thought it might be the case, but not as much as it was.
You had mentioned there's some talk in some outside press when it comes to this book. Do you think some of it has to do with the day and age we're in, the president?
Sure it does. Although when Obama was president, he was not particularly conspiratorial. but there was all that birther
Birtherism.
stuff, and there again, there were people trying to make that into a conspiracy. That it wasn't merely that he didn't have a birth certificate; it was that there had been this effort to contrive a bogus birth certificate, as though people knew when he was a baby that he would grow up to be president. So that was there. Hillary Clinton has spawned a tremendous amount of conspiratorial interest. It's since maintained, it's sort of isolated out there, but it's why people still respond to the lock her up as much as they do. Those people have a framework in which she is a truly conspiratorial, evil person. And all Trump has to do is ring that bell. He doesn't have to say anything in particular, and people will respond accordingly. But you could see it clearly in all that QAnon stuff that was, what, last year, perhaps? It's still out there. I was looking just yesterday at the books that are out about QAnon, the deep state, all of that sort of stuff. So yeah, it's as big as it's been.
Okay. Well, we have a lot to talk about, but I appreciate you coming on because I think we touched on some important issues, and thank you for being here again, Doctor.
My pleasure.
We'll be right back on What Matters This Week.